Hello and welcome to the second webinar in the Brevity Technical Webinar series. Episode 2 is on remote inspections for commercial interiors. Let's jump into it. Similar to the last webinar, we're going to use Slido. This allows interactive play. And so if you use the QR code on the screen here, you'll be able to get access to posting questions. And at the end of the session in the Q&A, you're welcome to add questions throughout this presentation, and we'll come to the questions at the end. So let's start by testing out the Slido feature. If you use your phone, jump on that QR code and put an answer in for the first poll. So what part of the country are you joining in from today? And let's see if we'll see if anyone's online, I suppose. I'll wait a moment while people are getting their phones out. I can see there's a few participants typing at the moment, so we'll wait for a few answers to pop up. We've got someone from Hamilton. Surely there are a few people from Auckland. There we go. New Zealand, Christchurch. I wasn't expecting anyone to dial in from outside of New Zealand, so it looks like it is all participants are New Zealand today. So cool. All right, we've got one more Slido to do. And the second question is, what's one word that comes to mind when you think of construction monitoring? It's always interesting to see what people think of before we get into the crux of this. Site safety, inspections, time consuming. That's an interesting one. Hopefully what we talk about today on the remote inspection side of things, the time consuming might change. Necessary, definitely. Some good words popping up there. All right, I'll jump to the next slide. So what is construction monitoring and why is it needed? Well, the simple answer to that is it's required in the compliance pathway. And if you'd like to hear more about the compliance pathway for seismic restraint designs in New Zealand, go and check out our first webinar, which is on our website. So there are 4 levels of producer statements in New Zealand. The PS1 and PS2s happen in the design phase, and the PS3 and PS4s happen in the construction and monitoring stages. Construction monitoring ensures that an engineering design is built correctly on site and typically involves an on-the-ground inspection by a qualified specialist, normally an engineer, and they will use their expertise to ensure the right materials and construction methods have been used to ensure the build is fit for purpose. There are different levels of construction monitoring. There's actually 5. And the right level to use is definitely specific to the particular project. And that depends on a number of factors such as the project size, the importance level, the complexity, the risk, and a few other factors. So CM1 is the lowest level of construction monitoring. CM2 is appropriate for smaller projects such as office fit-outs, where a normal level of non-compliance is acceptable. Our engineers will inspect representative samples to check the correct materials and construction methods have been used. Whereas when you go up to CM level 3, that's where a normal risk of non-compliance is acceptable. Brevity engineers recommend sampling in the CM3. They'll sample 1/3 of each design component, and we ensure that these samples are randomly selected throughout the building to ensure consistent workmanship throughout. And then when you jump up to CM level 4, this is where a lower than normal risk of non-compliance is acceptable, and engineers will inspect 2/3 of each design component. And then the highest level, CM5, that's typically selected for large commercial projects where the work poses a critical risk to life safety. So we see a range in our line of work in the design of seismic restraints. We see CM2, CM3, CM4, sometimes CM5, but generally speaking, like the third bullet point there, CM3 provides a good amount of information required by council for your general seismic restraint compliance. Now, remote inspections. This is something that has definitely evolved in the last few years during COVID-19, which has impacted the ability for people to get out and about and go on site. So we have refined a process to be able to do inspections remotely. Why would we do this? Well, it is simple, quick, and now it's officially recognised. So we conduct remote inspections throughout the country now, and Brevity will advise if remote inspections are possible for a particular project. There'll of course be some projects where on-site inspections are needed, but perhaps for a project, for a larger project, you could have a combination of 3 remote inspections to every 1 on-site inspection. So our team can help advise if remote inspections are possible or not. And what technology is actually required for a remote inspection? Well, it's fairly simple. All you need is someone on site that is familiar with the project ideally, and also with the components that need to be inspected. So a good level of project awareness. That person will also need a phone or tablet capable of doing video calls with one of our engineers who will probably be in the office talking to you on the computer. And of course, you'll need a stable connection. So if all 3 of those qualify and the particular project is able to be done via remote, it's definitely worth talking to us to see if your next inspection can be remote. You're probably thinking, what's the process to booking a remote inspection? So on this slide here, let's see a quick video. So it's pretty simple. You can jump onto our website and there's those 4 colourful buttons. The right-hand one is book an inspection. If you click on that, all you need to enter is your project number and your email, and then go down and select either the in-person or the remote inspection button. Then you can go and select a particular preferred engineer, or if you just need it done the quickest, select that option. And then you can choose the day and time that works for you. And then basically submit that, and you will receive an email with the details of the inspection. So it's pretty simple. And in the industry, we're getting quite a lot of good feedback on this process, and we are always refining it to look at ways to be able to have a more efficient process. So this actually concludes this presentation. I hope you have found at least one key takeaway from the last 10 minutes, and let's jump into audience Q&A. I need to... here we go. There's 3 questions. So let's start at the top. Who decides what level of construction monitoring is required? That's a good question. That will normally be done by the engineer and the client. And as we discussed, there are certain factors that need to be taken into account, particularly if there's information from the council. They might require a certain level of inspection for that project, but it typically will come down to a conversation during the engagement phase. The second question there, can remote inspections be used for racking projects? Yeah, 100%, definitely. I know we currently do this. Racking projects would typically be probably a CM level 3, just as a rule of thumb. We've definitely had some CM level 2s and probably 4s for racking projects, but yeah, for racking projects, like obviously there are certain things that would need to be inspected, such as the base plate connections, counting the right quantity and type of anchor bolts are used, making sure in that remote inspection the engineer can see what type of columns and beams and count the number of braces, etc. So yep. The third question there, are remote inspections through only photos acceptable? Yeah, that's a good question. I'd say that's on a project by project case, that one. So if it was a CM level 2 shop fit out type project, and the installer or the client sends photos that provides maybe that 33% of the area to show the required information, photos would be acceptable, and the Brevity engineers would be able to confirm that or not. Maybe a few more photos would be needed to be able to tick the boxes. And there's the latest question. Oh, if I scroll, there's actually more. What video software can I use for remote inspections? Our standard platform is Google, so Google Meets. But I know we can also do Zoom invites and sometimes Team. So talk to us when you're booking it, and we can definitely set it up to make sure that the video software works for whoever's on the other end on site, to make it easy. What happens if the call is not stable enough during the inspection? I've heard of this one happening a few times, where the engineer might have to go down into the basement level and it's surrounded by concrete and the connection is just not stable enough. If that happens, where did it go? If people like it, it moves around. This is cool technology. So if that happens, obviously the remote inspection will no longer work, and we would call you back to either arrange another time or potentially talk about the installer sending the photos needed. Depends where you get to in the inspection before it drops out. Otherwise, of course, the fallback option is to do a on-site inspection, but it doesn't happen often, but sometimes the connection may not be stable. Oh, there we go. If we tick it off. And that's all of the questions, I believe. I'll stay on for another few minutes in case further questions pop up. But if not, thanks for joining, and we'll see you next time.